I hereby call this meeting to order. I would like to thank everyone, tonight's presenters, and everyone that's joining us in person, as well as those that are on our live stream. We thank you all for being here. If we can have a little decorum so we can hear one another. We'll go ahead and start. AJ is going to lead us in the pledge. There you are.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have all of our board members are in attendance with the exception of our chair, Deanna Judy, who has been excused. So as vice chair, I'll be stepping in or sitting in for her this evening. There's a few addendum materials on the following topics. We have awards and recognitions, Pocatello High School Student Representative Report, Communications and Community Relations Report, several written comments, and then the Head Start Monthly Program Report are in addition. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addendums.
I move that we approve the agenda with the addendum.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to awards and recognitions, which will be provided by Courtney Fisher.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Howell, Ms. Johnson, and student representatives. I always love it when we have public outpouring like this because our community members get to come and hear about some pretty outstanding learners and staff members in our district. So awards and recognitions, we're going to recognize several individuals who through their actions support and embody our district's mission to think more, learn more, and be more together. And first up, we have our Learner of the Month, our CAKE Award, and we're going to do our Elementary School Learner of the Month first, and we have twins. So this is the first time ever that we've had twins recognized for this award. So I'm going to welcome Addison and Taysom Jaramillo up to the podium with their teachers. So first time ever, you guys are really special, right? So Addison, raise your hand, Addison, and Taysom were nominated by Miss Golden, nominated Addison, correct? And Ms. Vasquez nominated Taysom. So making a first for twins to receive the award, Ms. Golden and Ms. Vasquez wrote in their nomination letters. This year, Addison and Taysom, who are twins and have always been in the same class until now, were placed in separate rooms for the first time. Addison is with Mrs. Golden and Taysom is with Ms. Vasquez. While it was a new experience for them, both siblings have continued to shine brightly and make a significant impact in their respective classrooms. In Ms. Vasquez's class, Taysom has emerged as a beacon of encouragement. He consistently supports classmates who are struggling, reminding them to persevere and never give up. His kindness extends to everyone, and he leads by example, fostering a spirit of teamwork and a positive attitude that inspires his peers to do their best. Meanwhile, in Ms. Golden's class, Addison's presence is equally remarkable. She is always ready to lend a hand and help anyone in need, often stepping in without being asked. Her kindness knows no bounds, and she has made an effort to befriend new students, ensuring everyone feels welcome and accepted. Addison's actions encourage others to follow her lead and strive for their best. Though both Addison and Taysom were initially nervous about being separated, it is clear that they have each brought their own unique strengths and positive qualities to their new environments. We are grateful to have such wonderful learners, each contributing to positive, supportive, and welcoming atmospheres in our classrooms. So let's give them a big round of applause. So, this award, you guys, we believe that a safe, supportive, and caring and respectful environment is critical to student learning. And so the School District 25 Education Foundation, in partnership with Johnson Family McDonald's, partners with this award every month to celebrate learners like yourself. So you guys are going to get a certificate. You and your teachers are going to get gift cards to our local McDonald's, and then you're going to get $50 in your name to purchase books at the library. So it's a really cool award and really great accomplishment. We celebrate you tonight. I want to give this to you and this to you and shake your hand. Shake your hand, and then let our board members shake your hands today. Thank you for the nomination. Thank you for the nomination. And keep up the great work, you guys. Thanks for being here. Okay, next up, we have our secondary learner of the month, and Crew Lopez and his teacher, Miss Tammy Parker, join me at the podium. Ms. Parker, I believe you've worked with Mr. Lopez. Oh, okay, well, you nominated him, so I'm going to read, thank you for being here. So if you want to stand right here. So this is Crew, and he's in the 7th grade. You don't have to face me, you can just come stand with your teacher, yes. So Crew is in the 7th grade at Irving Middle School. And in her nomination letter, Mrs. Parker wrote, "I would like to nominate Crew Lopez for this award. I am a parent that gets the opportunity to work with English learners in our district. I had a student who was new to our country and was able to understand very little English. He traveled from Irving to Hawthorne to attend English as a second language class with other peers who are learning the English language. Crew had a few classes with this same student at Irving. I found that Crew had started to talk using a translator to this student." That's pretty cool. Crew also started to use Duolingo at home on his own free time to become better at communicating with the ESL student. Crew also made flashcards at home with the Spanish word and the English word on the back to practice his knowledge. This effort was not something that was asked or assigned to Crew. He also was a friend to the ESL student, which is something that is not easy when you speak different languages. I feel like this effort by Crew is a real example of what this award is all about, which is going above and beyond what is expected to help someone. I hope that this nomination will be considered and that Crew Lopez will be honored by receiving this award. So we celebrate you for your efforts and modeling character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement. And thank you for your example. And then we have And Crew, you'll also be receiving the same goodies that the others, the Johnson family McDonald's gift card, the $50 in your name to your library, and then we're going to ask you to go get your picture taken right outside. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay, next up we have our PIES Award, which is our Employee of the Month. PIES Award recognizes our employees who positively influence educational success. This award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort. And PIES Award recipients receive $50 gift card from Lookout Credit Union, who is our educational partner in this award. So now I'd like to ask to join me at the podium Miss Emily Smith and Miss Mallory Davey, who nominated her. Mrs. Smith is our transitional kindergarten teacher. So this is a new role for us over the last couple of years, and it's been a phenomenal addition to our district. She's at Lewis and Clark Elementary School, and she was nominated by Miss Davey. In her nomination letter, Miss Davey wrote, "Mrs. Smith is the epitome of empathy and personalization as both an educator and a mentor. She truly sees each of her students as individuals with their own stories, challenges, and dreams, making it her mission to create an environment where everyone feels seen and heard. One of the most admirable qualities of Miss Smith is her ability to connect with her students on a personal level, always meeting them where they are at. She takes the time to engage with each student, asking about their interests, family, and what they enjoy outside of school. Whether it's remembering a student's favorite sport or checking in on their weekend plans, her genuine interest fosters relationships with her students, which is so important to us in this district. As a transitional kindergarten teacher at Lewis and Clark, you can find her every morning in the cafeteria, greeting every student and staff member with a caring smile and a personal message. Her warmth sets a positive tone for the day and helps cultivate a sense of belonging among everyone. Mrs. Smith's empathy extends beyond academics. She actively fosters a supportive community within her classroom and among the staff. She offers a listening ear, allowing anyone around her to share their concerns without judgment. She offers an open hand where she helps wherever she is needed with a smile on her face. This includes shoveling bark on her personal time in the playground to make it a better environment for her learners, helping regulate student emotions in other classrooms, and offering advice and direction among her coworkers. This open, accepting atmosphere encourages students and staff to feel comfortable being vulnerable, knowing they have a supportive advocate in Mrs. Smith. In every way, Mrs. Smith embodies the spirit of positively influencing educational success. Her passion, dedication, and genuine love for her students creates an environment where everyone can thrive and achieve their goals. Her classroom is not just a place for learning, it's a nurturing community where she allows students to feel empowered to reach their full potential. I am honored to know her, as are we all. Thank you so much for the nomination. And you both will get a $50 gift card, courtesy of Lookout Credit Union, and a $20 gift card for the nomination, and this cool certificate. And congratulations. Thank you for the nomination. If you'll say hello to our board. Thank you again, and that concludes our recognitions.
Next, we'd like to hear from our student representatives, and so we will start with a representative from Century High School.
Good evening. My name's Suri Dalamy. I'm the student body president at Century High School. I'm excited to share some exciting achievements with you tonight. First, our drama team was named state champions for the 5th year in a row. And along with this huge achievement, auditions for their new play, Big Fish, the musical, began this evening. Our debate team also represented us well at our last tournament in Twin Falls, placing 3rd overall, and 2 students specifically placed 1st in their events. This holiday season, we held our annual Hunger Games, where our school came together to help students in need during this holiday season inside our school. Students brought in food for the school pantry, coats for their peers, and donated through raffles and coin wars. Classes were also able to sponsor a student within their own school by bringing in items on their Christmas list, which gave them the Christmas that they hoped for and that they deserve. Many of our seniors attended the senior ball, which was a wonderful experience, and it created some unity between all 3 high schools. Our basketball season is in full swing, and we're really excited to support all of them this year. And wrestling has experienced early success, taking 2nd place overall at the Dalkey Duels in Firth. We've continued hosting monthly FAFSA nights for all seniors, helping our students navigate financial aid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know, is there anyone from Highland here this evening? Oh, great, thank you. You want to just introduce yourself?
I'm Breland Rebake. I'm the Highland High School representative, and I'll just share a few quick updates from Highland. So Highland Drama won our state championship in our division for the 3rd year in a row, and they've set several records with how many state qualifiers they were able to bring and how well they did. Highland Student Government has been participating in the holiday season by leading a Sub for Santa program within our school to help people outside of our student population. We've had teachers and other students participate, and this has really helped strengthen our student body and promoted charity within our school. We also organized a night for elementary-aged kids, our night in Whoville, and we made about $500 for the Sub for Santa cause, and we're really grateful for all the community members who came and participated with that. Our band, choir, and orchestra all performed their winter concerts in these past 2 weeks, which were very successful. And Mrs. Jenna Wilcox, Highland Assistant Principal, was chosen as the Woman of Influence honoree for her leadership in Pocatello-Chubbuck School District 25 and in the community. So we're super proud and excited for her. Winter sports are underway. Student government has started what we call Hype Nights to increase student involvement and attendance at winter activities and athletics. And those have also been super successful in helping promote sportsmanship in our student body. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So I guess we don't have a representative tonight from Pocatello High School, but they've submitted a written report, and it's included in one of the addendums. We'll now turn the time over back to Courtney Fisher, who will now provide the Communications and Community Relations report. Is she still here? Okay, thank you. Welcome back.
I was after public comment. Okay, I will keep this quick. So most of this communications report is self-explanatory. Just want to draw your attention to a couple things. Namely, the regular stuff is all in there, top performing posts, where we are in terms of followers on page 2. Page 3 talks about our top performing posts over the last 28 days. And then page 4, I wanted to share a little bit with you about the hour of code activity that was last week, December 9th through the 13th. We had so much excitement in this district over this initiative in our K through 5 grades. And this event not only extended learning opportunities in our classrooms, but it was a professional development opportunity for our teachers as well, to extend their knowledge and their comfort level with teaching about STEM and coding. And so in order to participate, teachers signed up across the district to commit to just 1 hour of coding during that week. And so I've put the link to the video that we did. Ms. Chopsky helped me do a compilation of all the activities that happened throughout the district. I've put the media release that got pretty great coverage from East Idaho News, Idaho State Journal, Local News 8. So all of those links are there as well. And then I wanted to share some stats with you about that week. 139 of our K through 5 teachers participated in an hour of code the week of December 9th through 13th. And it gives you a breakdown of the grade levels, and it's pretty consistent across the board for those percentages of K through 5 who participated. And then just some fun facts. During the 23-24 school year, we had 1,521 learners who logged in to, and used code.org. And so far this year, we've already surpassed that, and we're inching up to 2,000, and we're only in the month of December. Last year, we only had 1 teacher trained in this CS Fundamentals curriculum, which is the elementary curriculum, and so far this year, we have 13 teachers trained. I want to give a big shout out to Ms. Janelle Arvis, who spearheaded this initiative and just her enthusiasm was contagious about this. And watching these learners, I went to several classrooms, and I would be hard pressed to find learners more engaged than they were this week during this hour. It was really quite amazing to see. So I hope if you haven't already looked at the video, you will watch it and get to see some of that firsthand. I've shared some pictures with you in that report. And then I also wanted to just share just about our holiday heroes this time of year. It always just gets almost emotional to have just the community members pouring into the district office with gifts to serve our family members and our learners who need a little extra support this time of year. So I've shared some information about the Greater Pocatello Association of Realtors, who brightened the season for 11 school district 25 families, including 34 children, 9 of whom are high school aged, through their annual Christmas giving effort. Over 200 gifts were lovingly provided, and somebody told me today they were able to up their per person allocation this year, which is, our dollars just aren't stretching quite as far, so that's just always amazing to see. Not only their generosity continues year over year, but the amount that they're giving continues year over year. It's a really successful, and we owe a huge debt of gratitude to our community partners. We just had the Pocatello Rotary Club stop by this morning with lots of stocking stuffers for our community resource workers to give to families. And so it makes me a little bit emotional and really proud of our community and our district this time of year. So on page 8, I just wanted to put a list together for you of all of the communications that have been surrounding our enrollment and attendance area initiative. It's a fairly exhaustive list. It does not include all of the media. Those are in the links provided to you in the appendix. But we're also on the enrollment and attendance area's website. We are collecting all of this information, from the minutes to all the press releases to any media, no matter what it focuses on. If there's a story in the media about this issue, then it gets listed on our website. So we're trying to provide comprehensive information about this topic, and it can be found very easily from our homepage on the district website. So I just wanted you to have that at your fingertips as well, so you would know how extensively we are communicating about this issue. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you.
Appreciate your efforts. Okay, now we're going to move on to public and written comment. Written comment has been received and is included in the meeting materials. Before we begin, though, I would like to remind those that are speaking publicly that to be respectful and to stay within the allotted time. Per board policy, there's 45 minutes allotted for delegations during the regular meeting. If you're unable to speak this evening, the board has tentatively scheduled there two public hearings coming up, one for the elementary enrollment and attendance areas and one for secondary during the second week of January, and those will be 2 hours in length. The board is not planning to consider any action until February. Just remind everyone of that. While the board is unable to engage in dialogue or respond with our presenters at the time of the meeting, we will direct the administration to follow up with you and report back to the board. So our first presenter is Bethany Coffin. Is she present? Going once, going twice. Okay, then our next presenter is Donna Chinel. Is she here? I'm sorry?
Donna Ballard.
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna Ballard. I got to read the second line. So I understand you're representing a group, and so as a group, you are allotted 10 minutes as opposed to just 3. And Renee will be our gatekeeper there.
I would like to begin by thanking the board for allowing me to speak and for taking our concerns into consideration. My name is Stephanie Powers, and I am a proud member of this community. I am a parent, teacher, and former student of School District 25. I am here today to express my profound concern about the proposed closure of Tendoy Elementary. This school is not just a building, it is the heart and soul of our neighborhood community. Tendoy offers a unique and enriching educational experience that cannot be replicated elsewhere. From preschool to 5th grade, we strive to prioritize engaging learning environments with opportunities for individualized attention, which is crucial to the academic success of our students. The dedicated teachers and staff go above and beyond to ensure that each child receives the support they need to thrive. Neighborhood schools offer a multitude of benefits that extend beyond the classroom. I would like to touch on a few of those benefits. First, community. Neighborhood schools foster a strong sense of community. Students, parents, and teachers often know each other, creating a supportive and inclusive environment and a partnership that supports each learner's success. This sense of belonging can enhance students' emotional well-being and academic performance. Second, proximity. Tendoy serves students from a small, tight-knit neighborhood. Proximity to home means shorter commutes for students, leading to less stress and more time for homework, extracurricular activities, and family. Additionally, the shorter distance reduces the risk of transportation-related accidents. Our school's population only requires 1 bus due to the majority of our students walking to school. Our physical building also allows for any students with disabilities in our neighborhood to attend their neighborhood school with ADA accessibility. Third, parent involvement. When schools are located within the community, parents are more likely to be involved in the school activities and events. This engagement can positively impact student achievement and school culture. Our PTA membership has tripled this academic year alone. Next, stronger relationships. Students have the opportunity to form lasting friendships with their peers who live nearby. These relationships can continue outside of school, promoting a sense of community and stability. And I'd like to finish with alternatives to closure. I urge the board to consider alternative solutions to address whatever issues may be prompting this closure, whether it's budget reallocation, partnerships with local business, or simply boundary adjustments. There are ways to keep our beloved school open without sacrificing the quality of education our children deserve. In conclusion, I implore you to see beyond the numbers, see the faces of the children who depend on this school, the families who cherish it, and the community that would be irreparably damaged by its closure or the closure of any elementary school. Together, let's find a way to preserve Tendoy for future generations. Our community has entrusted you, our school board, with the future of our children. I'd like to finish with some quotes from the people who matter most, our students. Some of my students chose to write letters to you that I will leave for you tonight. One student said, "I love Tendoy. It is one of my homes, so please don't shut it down." Another said, "School is where we see our friends and teachers make us feel safe." And finally, "Why close the school down? A lot of joy happens at Tendoy." Thank you for your time and consideration.
Dear board members and committee members, I humbly stand before you requesting that you continue to keep the doors of Tendoy Elementary open to our students and staff. I would like to share with you the sentimental reasons for keeping our doors open. A Stanford University study shows that a significant majority of decisions, often estimated between 90 and 95%, are influenced by emotions and sentiment. I am asking us to step outside of a world that necessitates facts, statistics, and mitigating factors in order to not simply listen to our cause, but hear our cause. One can analyze all the necessary data in order to help make what I imagine to be a tough decision, and rightfully so. But what you cannot measure is the impact we have had in our neighborhood school. We want the best for our learners, and keeping a neighborhood school, all neighborhood schools in operation, is what is best for School District 25 elementary learners. I have taught approximately 200 students during my time at Tendoy Elementary. Though pale in comparison to others, nonetheless significant to both myself and my 200 learners. In that time, I have given my learners purposeful, enriching teaching and instruction, a positive and safe learning environment, and most importantly, a culture of kindness and trust. What this list does not describe is what we've gone through together. In 2016, I had brain surgery and following complications resulting in my near passing multiple times. It left me in a wheelchair, unable to walk and on oxygen for months. During this time, I had to have a long-term substitute, who just so happens to be an extraordinary teacher at Washington Elementary, take over my class. I was asked by my doctor to go on disability, but for me that was unacceptable because I promised I would be there for my learners. My partner teacher, Stephanie Powers, picked up the pieces to help me focus on healing so I could come back. With sheer determination, I returned walking and breathing on my own. Clearly, I did this with the supportive family, but my perseverance was geared towards a promise to come back to my class. I did this solely because the class that waited for me, alongside my staff and teaching partner, were my greatest cheerleaders. I have since promised each class that I have ever had that I would be there with them, cheering them on no matter what, no matter where life took them, and that they could always come back to find me in case they ever needed me. 200 promises. Through our own district professional development, we have learned how a teacher's word affects student achievement. We refer to this as efficacy. Dr. John Hattie has defined efficacy as teachers' shared belief that through collective action, they can positively influence student outcomes, including impacting those who are disengaged and/or disadvantaged. This contributes to an effect size of 1.57. It should be noted that Hattie has subsequently also categorized the physical attributes of a school as negative 0.05. That is a substantial difference. Each of our district entities can make valid proposals as to what physicalities would make their schools more successful, such as new carpet, desks, or what we tend to see most, athletic contributions. You are a business, and athletics generates revenue. We understand this, but at the end of the day, since we are examining statistics, it is in fact what is happening inside of the classroom that generates the largest effect sizes. And if we are truly considering our youth's best interest, we are not a business. We are an institution that is here to make all learners successful, and learning is what will help them all to succeed. I conclude with this. A 9-year-old cannot comprehend the politics of district business. They can, however, comprehend what they interpret as a lie. They can comprehend when someone that they trust does not keep their word. Being here at Tendoy is my word and my intention to never go back on my word. I implore you, school board and committee members, to allow myself, and my fellow co-workers to be a beacon that our children can always find. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Maria Canzaneri here. I understand the goal is to look at underutilized assets, a cost-saving initiative that deemed necessary plainly due to funding cuts. I just hope that we look at Tendoy holistically, not just the fact that it is a smaller school and therefore less valuable, but rather consider what environment a small school fosters, the closeness that blossoms between all the students and the parents. I know the folks at my school, and even better, my little kindergartner knows them. It's a fantastic elementary school, and it can start a young one's life on a safe, stable foot. That's what Tendoy is to me, a safe, fantastic school. If you've been to Tendoy at 2:25 at pickup time, it's a really cute scene. You have all the parents coming with younger siblings. Everyone knows to wait outside in their yard. They have all the doors to the classroom on the back door perfectly ready to open, and everyone knows what to do. I love going there. I haven't been there a lot. I'm a working mom, but when I do go there, I love to see all the bigger kids walking home. It's just so nice to see our neighborhood. Everyone around us knows Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, you drive slow down that street because the school, the sign is blinking. It's really nice to see the same crossing guard every morning. It's inspiring. My kindergarten teacher came to my son's birthday party. They made us feel like we are part of a family at Tendoy, that we have a home here. It's an unmeasurable benefit of a small elementary school. That's on a personal note. On a practical note, as a manager of a local building in town, I do have some insight to the cost of building maintenance, and I wonder if also the maintenance costs are lower at Tendoy due to its smaller size. In an ISJ article, Dr. Doug Howell, I believe, was quoted as reflecting positively on our district's higher than average proficiency rates, our great teacher retention, and I love to see that at our schools. And respectfully, I just would like to understand, how do we keep up with these positive numbers while dealing with, these boundary issues and, the unfortunate cuts to funding? And I just speak for myself, possibly my community and state. Just in order to accept, we must understand. So I ask for grace for everyone, and most importantly, transparency in your decision-making and fact-gathering. Thank you. I appreciate your ear.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ryan Frost.
What was her name?
Are you here representing yourself, or are you representing the school?
Myself.
Okay, so 3 minutes, please.
I go over.
You come prepared, I like it.
I always like to have notes to kind of look at if you leave and you're like, what do you say?
Thank you. You bet. Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. Century High School was pleased when the committee was formed to address the current boundary issues. Unfortunately, the initial optimism didn't last long. I was hopeful to be part of this committee, but I was told that since I am not a member of the teachers union, that I could not participate. I don't believe the committee examined enough data, and I feel the recommendation does not adequately support Century High School. The committee primarily considered the current 8th through 11th graders, but I do not believe students will remain at their current school. As a result, I would say at most, Century High School would receive 1/4 of this, assuming 8th graders only. That's if all 8th graders. This would roughly be about 27 students in the zone 6 and 7 that was recommended. I have proposed an alternative, assign Century zones 2 and 3, which would include 159 students. However, mentioned above, it's likely that only about a quarter of these students would attend as well, approximately 40. The committee briefly discussed this option, but was dismissed quickly because they said the buses could not turn around to accommodate this change. I was surprised that no one asked whether the buses could simply continue straight, as they already do on other routes. This option would also help bring the free and reduced lunch rate across all 3 schools within 18. At the last board meeting, there was a discussion about the Century School culture. While I'll admit We are working in a lot of areas. We are also doing our best. Recently, I noticed one of the student athletes that I have appeared ill. I went up to him and I asked, "How are you feeling?" In which he said, "Not very good, coach." I asked him why. He said, "Well, I didn't eat breakfast or lunch today. My free and reduced lunch thing didn't work for me," which broke my heart. You know, I'm trying to go through a practice and I could just tell he was not having a good day. Sorry, I lost my place. When people think of school culture, they often focus on athletic success or large student sections at a game. However, it's difficult to foster this culture when students are more concerned about whether they'll have lunch that day. Also, don't worry, I talked to the kid and made sure that in the future that we don't have to ever go down that road too. Additionally, students who are bused this century do not have the luxury of returning to school to attend an event like a football game. I also believe it's challenging to create a positive culture when we lack a true Century community. Many of the closest homes to our school do not even attend our school. The last speakers kind of mentioned this too. It's nice to have a community of your school, in which it feels like we don't have that because the southernmost area doesn't attend our school. Unfortunately, Century also has the lowest percentage of students from our boundary areas in the middle schools. Due to open enrollment, many students choose to stay with their friend groups, which often leads to them to choose a school other than Century High School. Assigning the southern area of Pocatello to Century is a crucial step towards helping us establish a positive school culture. I was disappointed to hear that some people have suggested that Century's challenges with the boundaries are not a concern for the board. Our district motto is think, learn, be more together. Please give us the opportunity to build a positive school culture with the support of the Southern Pocatello community. In the packets I gave you with the same numbers provided from the previous secondary meeting, that was the Zone 2 and 3. That was that very top page that I provided with you guys, or the second page, excuse me. The first was just what I said today. The second page on there was the map, because I know they gave you a bunch of different numbers to just kind of refresh your memory on what Zone 2 and 3 is. And then the third was an outline of the middle school boundaries that are gonna be proposed. They're not finalized obviously yet, with the boundary lines of where the high schools would be represented on there. I wish I could have got the actual percentage of each school, but just on kind of looking at land in the areas of the city, you could see that Century, and I'm pretty sure they're well below 50% of any of the 4 middle schools in town. Thanks for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you. So I am, since I get to be chair tonight, I do want to address the culture comment that I made last week. And I want to reassure Century faculty, staff, students that it was no way meant to be construed in a negative way. It's just something that culture is an important part of our community and in part is being addressed this evening. And that was merely my comment there, that there are cultural things that are taking place in each of our different schools. So anyway, I just wanted to address that. Thank you for giving me that a little bit of latitude there. Okay, our next comment, public comment, is Mary Ann McGrory. And again, are you speaking on behalf of the teachers union or as an individual?
Teachers Union.
Union, okay, so we'll allot you 10 minutes.
Are you going to do 3 or 10?
Somewhere in between.
Can I just stop when I'm done?
As long as it doesn't go over 10 minutes, we'll let you go.
It will not be over 10.
Okay, thank you.
Tonight, I will be short, but probably not too sweet. I want to first start off by saying that every single school in District 25 provides a stellar education to every single student that we have in our classroom. And I think that message is getting lost. And I understand the emotion of boundary changes, so let me go back to my notes because sometimes I get off track. Because I'm a teacher and we do that. Change of any kind is hard, but there are non-negotiable factors such as declining birth rate that have led to a decline in enrollment, particularly in our elementary schools in our district. We know deciding to redraw boundaries is a decision fraught with emotion. contemplating closing a school adds to that emotion. However, you as a board charged each boundary committee to make the recommendations to even out school numbers, class sizes, and socioeconomic numbers across the district. Each committee member took this responsibility seriously and gave up their own time to work towards these recommendations for each level of school. Each committee, and I'm on the high school committee, boundary committee, we looked at numerous pages of data. And I am not a data person, but we looked at it. We had the map lady there who could adjust the map and adjust the boundaries and tell us how many students will this affect? What does this do to numbers? What does this do to socioeconomic numbers? And we looked at all that. Not one committee came in with a preconceived notion of what we are going to do. No committee was told, this is what the district wants us to do, this is what we're going to recommend. We have worked for hours, and some of the committee members are not being treated very nicely in the community because of these decisions that they have recommended or that they have come to. This process has been transparent from day one. It has been always noticed, and it is always open to the public. So I close by asking you and the public to trust this process, to trust that what the boundary committees are coming up with is what the data has shown us needs to happen. And I know it can be hard, but change is hard, but sometimes in the end, change can be good as well. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
For your comments. Next, we have Dakota Bates. Thank you. Are you representing a group or
I'm
yourself?
with a group.
A group, okay. 10 minutes, please.
Thank you, trustees, for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm Dakota Bates, and I'm representing the Washington Elementary Advocates, which is a committee that was formed very quickly after we learned of the proposal to recommend closing Washington. Last night, as a committee, we had the opportunity to address the elementary subcommittee, and we would just like to quickly share our really heartfelt gratitude to Mr. A.J. Watson, who's been nothing but cordial and cooperative with us with any questions that we've had. And also to all the committee members. They asked us several questions. They were genuinely interested in what we had to say, and we recognize that it's a lot of sacrifice on their part, and we're grateful to be invited and be a part of the process. Included in your addendum is the information that we shared with them last night. And I'm just going to quickly review some of the items. I won't be able to review it all due to time. But the Washington Elementary Advocates consists of parents of children at Washington, of which I have 2 children at Washington. But we also have members of our committee who don't have children there, who never had children there, but are part of our neighborhood and care deeply about the consequences of what could happen if we close Washington. We've also invited into our group and have sought the advice of some subject matter experts. We have people with deep knowledge of architecture and engineering and historic preservation. And we've also been in contact with long-range planning with the city of Pocatello so that, we're trying to get all perspectives and make sure that we understand the issue as well as we can. And our ultimate goal is to collaborate with you and provide you with maybe some information or perspectives that you're not hearing. As you may know, we had a march last Saturday. There was, in the wind and the snow, we had nearly 300 people attend, and we marched from Caldwell Park to the school. And we had enough people, we were able to circle the school, and it was really touching how many people came. And I really want to point out in that we had people from all across the community. This is not, and it confirms to us, it's not a college neighborhood issue. It's not about Washington. It's not about Tendoy. It's really about the entire community, the district. It affects everyone. Both proposals, whether you close Washington or Tendoy, affects over 1,000 learners. And so we feel strongly that we need to be looking at all options. We have 6 mission statements. I'm not going to share them all with you, but I want to focus on a few of them that I think are important. Number one, and this is what's been driving us, closing a school has widespread consequences. So we ask you to please not rush this decision. We all understand that there will be drastic ripple effects from the closure of any school. This decline in enrollment did not happen overnight. We wish that we could have had this conversation 3 or 4 years ago when the data was showing that enrollment was declining. But simply because the conversation has been delayed, we ask you not to rush a decision and really make sure that we're looking at everything. A closure does not address the root causes of the decline in enrollment. And that's what really drives us as well. We want to collaborate with the board, and we want the community, all stakeholders to be involved. And we feel like this process is somewhat of a Band-Aid over a broken bone. It's not addressing the root cause. And finally, just like Pocatello High School, Washington is unique and valuable because of its history. I understand that's not the most important factor, it's hard to put history into dollars and cents. But we do think it is something that should be noted and something that should be considered. As we've been in touch with the long-range planning at the City of Pocatello, we've looked at Pocatello's comprehensive plan for growth. And a few quick things I want to point out. One, the city has spent millions of dollars developing this plan, and they're taking actionable steps to put this plan into place. And this plan calls for redevelopment, infill into core neighborhoods in Pocatello. A critical piece of that is walkable neighborhood schools. And so we want all the taxing entities that we live in to be working hand in hand and be on the same page. And we feel like this decision really contradicts what the city of Pocatello is planning on and working towards. And there's active development happening inside Washington's boundaries. As we read through the minutes of the Elementary Enrollment Committee, one thing that we noticed right away and really stood out to us is that academic performance, academic metrics were not considered at all by the committee. And we feel like it is a school district. We should be looking at the academic performance of schools, and that should be at least a consideration when we're talking about closing a school. So I've included in here some academic information that compares elementary schools. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they're really focused on metrics that are focused on growth and how successful is the teaching in this school. One is, are students in the school improving enough on state assessments to be proficient in 3 years? Washington, as far as English, they were in the 80th percentile, and for math, they were in the 90th percentile. District average for English is 50th, math 60th. On the Idaho Reading Indicator for proficiency, so they test kids in the fall and then in the spring to see how much growth and proficiency is there in the student body. In the fall of '22, Washington was at 65%. In the spring, they were at 84%. Their reading proficiency in the school increased by 18%. The district average is 7%. Teacher experience. We feel like this is a very big issue. In Washington, there's not a single teacher that has less than a year of teaching experience. And 89.5% of the staff have over 6 years of experience. It's the highest in the district. The average for the district, 10% of teachers are new teachers, 73% have over 6 years of experience. We understand there's a budget shortfall. And the maintenance of Washington is not $6.5 million a year, and the closure of Washington is not going to clear up that budget shortfall. And we know the unfortunate reality is that whether through attrition or other ways, staff has to be reduced. But if we close Washington, we risk losing some of the most experienced and, by the data, some of the best teachers that the district has. I want to talk about capacity for just a moment. If you take the 7-year elementary enrollment data, Washington Elementary is the only elementary school that has increased in enrollment over the last 7 years. They have a 26% increase from the 2018-2019 school year to the 24-25 school year. The district average has declined by 11%. Each school on average has declined 11%, while Washington increased 26%. And while we're on the topic of capacity, we just feel like there's multiple ways you can look at numbers. The enrollment committee, any room, any classroom that was used for a special program, 0 students were counted towards that room. So by the committee's numbers, Washington looks like it has 53% capacity. But Washington has 2 classrooms that are used for GATE. They have a Title I classroom and a resource room. All of these rooms are used. They may not be classrooms, but they're used. And if you risk overloading these schools and pushing those programs into the hallways, into the gyms, into places where it's not most effective for them. We do want to address parking because we have received a lot of feedback that there is an issue with parking, and we frankly disagree. We feel like parking is a non-issue at Washington. Many students walk to Washington, but there are also creative ways to address parking at Washington. One of our advisors that we've reached out to is an architect. He drew up a design for us that's in the addendum where you can put diagonal parking along the schools, and you could get up to 40 spaces along the school with very little effort. So we just feel like this is not an issue that really needs to be focused on. I just want to finish by saying in Superintendent Howell's op-ed this week, he mentioned that maintaining the status quo is unsustainable. And that may be true as far as the budget, but we feel like this action, possible action, is the status quo, and there's precedent for it. It's called Roosevelt, Whittier, Emerson, and Bonneville. We've done this many, many times before. And ultimately what happens is it falls on the neighborhoods, nonprofits, homeowners, and in the case of Bonneville, the taxpayer to pick up the pieces when we close a school. So it may be in the best interest of the district. It's not in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alfreda Vaughn. 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Alfreda Van,
Van.
and I'm from the Bonneville Neighborhood Association. I also serve on the Community Government and Relations Committee with NeighborWorks Pocatello, and a lot of other things. I'm just happy to be here because I was here once about 18 years ago when Bonneville School was in the process of being closed. And it ended up being closed, and all of our students, in fact, 136 families were affected because their children were being bussed out of the community. And I'm here just to add that there are long-range ramifications when a school is closed. And thanks to NeighborWorks Pocatello, that property that Bonneville sat on is now housing 26 housing units so people can move back into the community. But what sadly was lacking is an elementary school. We have no school. And that really does affect your neighborhood, your neighborhoods, your community, when you don't have a walkable school to go to. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to everyone, and I was a student who started Pokey High in 1963. We had the largest student body in the history of Pocatello High. There were 915 sophomores. Yeah, I know. You had to walk like this in the basement to go to class. And understanding the decline in the enrollment, of course, I'm part of the after the war child, But understanding that there is a decline in enrollment, and there are so many factors that affect the decline in the birth rate. But I'm just here to say there are ramifications when you close a walkable elementary school in a community. And it really needs to be addressed, that we don't want to ruin our neighborhoods. We don't want to not have people move in because their child is going to be bused 5 or 10 miles away. And that's unfortunate. It really is, and we really need to consider that. And Bonneville, you know, luckily we have that housing development that's now built, and now we're selling homes. But we still miss not having our elementary school, which was an historic school.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your comments. So our final speaker this evening is Jim Angsley. Is he here? Thank you. 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, members of the board. Jim Anglesey. And tonight I'll be speaking to you as a professional community planner. Smart growth is a community planning approach to help communities become socially, economically, and environmentally resilient. While this approach is outlined in great detail in Pocatello's most recent comprehensive plan, the approach is nothing new. Since the early 2000s, the community's desire for smart growth principles have been discussed at length with the cities of Pocatello and Chubbuck, Bannock County, and the school district, and many other organizations and citizens. This approach consists of 10 principles, one of which is creating and maintaining walkable neighborhoods. Walkable neighborhoods are in high demand across the country, and it's hardly a mystery why. Walkable places, desirable places, are created by a mix of land uses, compact building design, high density, and a variety of civic amenities, including churches, parks, and schools. Pocatello's recently adopted plans stress an emphasis on infill development in our existing neighborhoods, including the vision of 2,900 residential new units in the downtown area alone. This will likely necessitate the need for walkable neighborhood schools in our city's core. Schools built within walking distance of neighborhoods will reduce transportation costs and improve the safety and well-being of our students. The trend towards mega schools, or the campus school model, as opposed to smaller neighborhood schools, continue despite widespread agreement among researchers that the size of most U.S. schools is too large. A growing body of research has shown that student achievement in small schools is at least equal and often superior to achievement in large schools. A high percentage of students across all socioeconomic levels are successful when they are part of smaller, more intimate learning environments. Thus, security improves and violence decreases, as does student alcohol and drug abuse. The location of school facilities often drives land development patterns. Schools located at a distance from a neighborhood force people to use buses and cars, thus advancing the social degradation and isolation of suburban sprawl. Creating more neighborhood schools, not less, is one of the most important avenues for advancing the quality of life in our community. It makes sense from a learning standpoint and an economic standpoint, and it makes sense if you want to have schools that are part of the community's success as opposed to part of its problems. Schools contribute to the economic life and vitality of their neighborhoods. When a neighborhood loses a school, fewer new residents move there, and property values decline. This is already apparent in other neighborhoods throughout Pocatello as elementary schools are abandoned. The abandonment of civic uses signals a lack of interest or investment the community has on a neighborhood. I plead with you to recognize the importance of small neighborhood schools as engines of community success and desirability, to seriously consider the movement already in motion towards increased density and the significant increase of residential units in our core neighborhoods. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to this evening's discussion, and all those are going into the minutes. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and I would entertain a motion to approve the November board meeting minutes as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the following minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Sorry, can't see. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing the payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial data, human resource activity, out-of-state overnight travel requests, and camp requests. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I hereby move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda are the self-explanatory reports, which include the Idaho General Fund Revenue Report, the Food Service Free and Reduced Meal Eligibility Report, Food Service Outstanding Balance Report, the Professional Development Report, Head Start Monthly Program Report, Student Enrollment Report, and the Student Suspension Report. Next, we'll move on to our curriculum and instruction, technology, school safety, and athletics. We'll begin with the District Enrollment and Attendance Area Committee update presented by A.J. Watson, Sue Pettit, and Jonathan Balls.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for your time this evening. We'll start with just a review of kind of how where we have come to here. As we presented last week in our board work session, again, on what has happened with our enrollment, a decrease of approximately 930 learners from the 1920 school year, and that in regards to funding translates into support units. That last year we had a reduction or a decrease of 21 support units. And so AJ and Sue and Brenda Miner, our HR director, without, well, it was very challenging to basically reduce 14 positions through attrition. And so that was something that we did to align staffing to enrollment. And so that, but that decreased, it resulted in about 3.3 million of a reduction of funding, and needed that position reduction to reduce the expenditures to match to that reduction in revenue. And again, this year, I estimate we'll be down another 18 units because of that enrollment. We'll have final numbers probably in January, is what I'm hoping, right after the break. And so we'll share those final numbers for this year with you. But again, I estimate that's again another reduction of about $2.8 million. And so the range that I'm going to ask and beg and plead Mr. Watson and Ms. Pettit and Ms. Miner to work is approximately 15 to 20 teachers. And so that's very challenging, and that's kind of the reality that we're dealing with. Again, did our best last year and did a great job to do that. And so that's kind of where we're facing going forward, trying to be proactive, and so that we can present that balanced budget to you in basically next June. And so that's where we want to kind of have that discussion. Again, no action in front of you today, but wanted to talk about whether it be this funding and also facilities, staffing, and so forth.
So if I understand what you just said, you're proposing that we may be looking at 14 to 15 positions. 20 positions.
Might be 15 to 20 is the range that we're aiming at right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in your packet, you have a comparison report. At the work session, we talked about the facilities. We do not have the elementary Committee will not have a new recommendation or proposal for you at this meeting, but we will in January at this scheduled special meeting. But I just wanted to, before we get into the information from Tendoy and Washington, I just wanted to highlight, I know at the work session information or discussion was held about Lincoln and the facility itself. I just want to make it clear that Lincoln is a preschool. It has no impact in terms of enrollment for elementary staffing resources. Decline in enrollment is completely separate from the budget for elementary. So as we're looking at options, and if a school were to be closed, yes, you could consider Lincoln as kind of a secondary option with all other programs if you wanted to move something, or if we decided to move something into one of those buildings, if it was closed as a neighborhood school. But the question was asked multiple times, would Lincoln help resolve or solve the elementary or the current decline in enrollment? And it does not have an impact on that. So I just wanted to make that clear as we're talking about the facility. We included some information in the comparison chart because the board, you asked for some information just in regards to the physical building itself. Sure, there could be some savings with the building itself, but it would not have it would not have an impact on the elementary staffing or resources that we've been talking about. Then I think Jonathan was going to give some information and kind of highlight some of the comparison pieces with Washington and Tendoy for the physical buildings and facilities.
Yes, and included in your packet, again, this came from it was an exercise that we went through for our 10-year facility plan. Each facility was evaluated on.
Was it 10, Mr. Balls, or 20?
So, excellent clarification point. So they called it the 10-year plan, but our exercise took the dollars out 20 years. It was the software by Jacobs Construction that the state actually contracted with, that we put in all of our data, and they used price per square foot in all these different areas that calculated depending on how the school was graded, good, fair, poor, or replace in several of these different conditions, and then that took it out the 20 years. So it definitely was a 20-year comparison there. And so you can kind of look and see, we had in there the summary, if you will, and that's in the summary sheet, and then the individual detail for Tendoy, Washington, and then as Mr. Watson said, we did put in Lincoln there as well. And so, again, talking facilities, again, Washington, as you can see even there on the red, that there are some systems there that do need to be addressed. And again, one of the things that significant upgrades would be needed for for the long-term use. And so you can see the amounts there from 0 to 5 and 6 to 10, and that's what our maintenance department, again, looking at current pricing and so forth, our estimate was between 6 and 7 million to do that, and so that's in line with what this tool gave us as well in the next 0 to 5 and 6 to 10 years there. So you can look at that and compare that to the other schools as well.
I'm sorry, maybe you could clarify this for me?
Yes.
This is the one he's,
Yeah. Oh, that one there.
yeah, the one with the color.
All right.
There were several
No.
different documents there, and we debated whether we should put them all in one huge PDF or separate those out. Did you find that, Mr. Knopf?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And so then what is in yellow is the projected cost over the next 6 years?
Again, the different columns there, 0 to 5.
Oh, yeah,
6
yeah,
to
yeah.
10, and 11, 20,
Okay.
20 plus.
Okay.
How many of those are imminent?
So the ones in red.
And is that as in the school becomes inhabitable without these?
No, so we want to be careful here because
Right, that's why I'm
Washington is still
clarifying.
safe, correct? We
Right,
have a
right.
annual inspection by the state building inspectors, and so they are the ones that say, yes, this building is still is safe. That being said, it does need a new roof, for example. The HVAC system is the old steam, steam piping and so forth. So that would, for long-term use, that would need to be upgraded.
So I guess I'm curious then for the committee, AJ, some of the things that have been brought up tonight. I mean, I did wonder if those, has there been conversations with the city? Have they been, are they at all interested in preserving this building or helping? I mean, is that even something we can?
We have not had any conversations with the city or about the historic, designation of the building.
Right.
No.
Jonathan?
Yeah, so.
Dr. Howell, did you have a?
Well, I actually did.
Okay.
That last presenter, Mr. Englesey, he's the city's, and he mentioned that, but
Right.
he is the city's long-term planner. So he and I had a conversation about that, and he's, and his involvement in some of these associations, which are great. It was a very open dialogue. I mean, I shared with, some of the heartache of our numbers, of enrollment going down. He shared his point of view going forward as well. I will mention I even had a conversation, again, through Dr. Howell with our state, it was one of our local representatives about if Washington is not used by the school, what could it be used for, again, to benefit the community, the city, and the region itself. So again, those were just, I just share that just, if the information is needed, that'll be shared. We can have them come as well. But I just, it's not, we want to look at all the options.
Sure.
And look down the road, because that's part of our jobs, is to look down the road and after, a decision, might be made there.
Well, and I can't help but, the presenters tonight, of course, the data that we've seen, the academic experiences that are happening at Washington are certainly notable and measurable, and but then I look across the whole district, and what makes up a school is not the brick and mortar. It's the teachers, it's the families, it's the students, and an active, involved parent is going to be active and involved regardless of where they are. A great teacher is going to be a great teacher in whatever building they are. This is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one, so I appreciate presenting this information.
Jonathan, I've got a question.
Yes, please.
On the 20-year facility cost,
Yes.
looking at Washington,
Mm-hmm.
are you saying there are structural problems in the foundation?
So we need to evaluate that, yes. We need to make sure that that is sustainable for over the next 5 years, yes. So we know that there's some, just even looking, there's some cracking and so forth that we need to make sure it's addressed if it is going to be used long-term. So yes, I am saying that we definitely need to look at that.
So was that considered in the cost analysis that you talked about earlier?
It is. And so
Okay.
you'll see there, again, this tool that had there
Oh,
put
okay.
around
Yes, you go 11 to 12 years and 20
1.4
years.
million in the
Yeah.
structural. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And there's one additional piece that we don't have any data for you yet, but we will get that when we make the proposal and recommendation. But it's the consideration as to staffing, as Jonathan was talking about, and the potential for additional reductions for the next school year, the 25-26 school year. And it just kind of highlights what we've been talking about in terms of if we do have to, at elementary, proposed for us to reduce, let's say, 10 additional positions. It makes it really difficult, as I explained at our work session, to be able to balance out and reduce 10 positions, where at some of these schools that are smaller schools that have 2 classrooms per grade level and maybe their enrollment is 35 to 40 learners, there's really no way for us to maximize those classrooms, and we end up with smaller class sizes versus other schools where we'd make reductions and we would have, class sizes closer to 28 to 30.
Right, that's what I was noticing. I mean, I appreciate so many comments that came in the written. They're talking about needing small class sizes, and love that, I mean, that's
We all
what
agree.
all of our
Yes.
parents would love to have. But when you look across the district, we have some that are not. And so we understand that that's a burden on those teachers versus working at a school that you just have 17, and so how do we, that's gonna be part of this discussion, is how do we make sure that it's balanced across the district and that we can't favoritize, I don't know. That's all gotta be part of this conversation, and the heartstrings, I get it. But we've gotta make sure that it's not a burden on other schools. Oh, sorry, Ray. So-
And we will look at options as well and share those as you talked about as
Right,
we're all
didn't we
working
talk
on
about what do we
solutions.
do if we don't close any, how do we?
If we don't close
at
any,
least
what that would
redistribute kids?
rebalance and what that would look like with staffing and numbers, and we can show that, and also looking at options. There are options as far as what we do program-wise. We have full-day kindergarten that we went to the last, this will be the third year, right? There are additional options as we look at staffing. If we were to do something like go back to part-time kindergarten, or look at some of our other programs and other places that we would make reductions. So those will all be part of the conversation, but I just wanted you to know that as we're looking forward as well, that those are decisions that will have to be made.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have comments?
No, I really appreciate this chart because I brought up Lincoln, and I do know it's a preschool early intervention
Yeah.
area. It just helps with that comparison and seeing what was discussed in the committee, so thank you.
So, let's see, let's see.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
You still have some more.
I didn't finalize the last piece on here is the timeline,
Right.
and you mentioned it. We just need to finalize. So we have the special meeting on the 7th, that will be at 3:30, and then we need to finalize the public hearings, and those dates that following week, the middle of January. I think tentatively we had Monday, January 13th for elementary, and secondary was Wednesday, January 15th, with possible board action in February. So just needing to finalize those dates for the public hearing.
Very good.
So if everybody would look at their schedules and let us know. That
Make
works.
sure. Earmark, and those will be evening, I presume?
And that was one of the things that we were going to talk about as well, I'm sorry, whether we start those at 6 or 6:30, or what kind of a evening timeline you guys are thinking about, so.
I would say 7, only because when we did public hearings, and I think we tried a 5:30 or 6, and, that's difficult for parents, especially if their kids are activities, so I don't know if anyone else has an opinion on that.
I will be there.
Okay.
That's all. Said it and I'll show up.
Same here.
Okay, and I was going to just remind you that I
Yeah.
sent another option for high school boundaries. It should be in your addendum.
Oh,
It was one that I thought was on there, and then because I was sick and didn't look close enough, it does include moving Olive South to Century. They end up with 85.
I don't think we have that.
Okay.
Okay, I will go print it for you before I leave.
That would be great.
At any rate,
Put it in the packet.
the difference is Century ends up with only 85 more kids, but it affects 621 families or learners that would have to move schools. And so on mine, I have little red numbers, and I will make a copy of this for you, and I'll make a copy of it for Renee. And you can see how many people it affects, each of these
That's
options.
that Area 11 that has been talked about before.
Yes, it would be area 6, 7, and 11. But if you pull that many from Pokey, you need to put students back into Pokey. And that would be North Chubbuck coming into Pokey, but then you've taken them out of Highland, so you need to put more back into Highland so that they're status quo. And that would be the center of,
And so this is just moving 100 kids?
it would be moving 85 kids into Century.
So isn't that what we were already proposed, that it would be 97?
99, 97? Yep.
So is this
I
in
miss-
addition to, or
No,
this is just
this
a
is
whole
instead
different
of.
proposal?
This is instead of. It's just a different proposal. Part of the committee wanted to see if we could get Olive South
Right.
into Century. This is how we could do that.
But when you were proposing the 97, you weren't moving any into Pokey.
Correct. We were
So
just
how is
taking,
this one any different? Why do we have to put,
because if you take Olive South, it takes almost 200 students out of Pokey.
okay.
So we had a presenter talking about moving just zones 6 and 7 and not 11. Have you
Correct.
considered that, or?
That is the option that the committee recommended, that we do 6 and 7 only. but they wanted to make sure you had this other option in case you wanted to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
And the comment made earlier that only 25 eighth graders would come, that's how transitions work. You move those boundaries, the kids can choose to stay at their school or they can choose to go. The eighth graders are the ones that come in, and the following year, another 25 come in, another 25 come in, another 25 come in. And that's how you would end up with your extra 100.
Yeah, it's just looking at it over the 4-year spread.
Correct. But we also have students that if their boundary did get moved and they chose to move, they could move immediately.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
And I will email that to the board and include it in the addendum material, so I apologize for that.
Okay. Do you want me to bring it to everybody still?
I can email it to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I think AJ, you're still up.
I am. Up for action tonight is the proposed 2025-2026 school district calendar. It was presented at the work session last week. Just a couple of reminders. Really, the only major changes include a shift starting a week later in August and going a week later into the June than we have in the past, and also that addition to a slight change in the kindergarten first day, splitting those kindergarten learners into half for the first and second day, and then all of them attending on the third day. Other than that, mainly most of the holidays and other items remain the same.
Very good. I would entertain a motion to adopt the 25-26 School District 25 calendar as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adopt the 25-26 School District 25 calendar as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion has passed. Next, we have policy 8212, the head lice, second reading for adoption. Do we need to read it, or? Okay. I would entertain a motion to hear policy 8212 on second reading for adoption as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear policy 8212, head lice pediculosis on second reading for adoption as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just say that, just a quick overview of what the changes were.
Oh,
So
okay.
I can
That's
give
why I
you-
was wondering if we needed.
I can give you just a quick overview, just a couple of minor changes to the policy. One, no longer requiring or asking for full classroom head checks when a student is identified as having lice. And two, removal of the requirement for a 7-day recheck and treatment, which is in accordance with the current CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations.
And we did not receive any public input on that, so there were no more changes. And we have a first and a second.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next, we have Tanya Wilkes.
Hi, I just wanted to break down, in January, we'll be sending that survey out to parents that want to be involved in the committee
The
to
cell phone
develop
committee?
a policy. And I'd like to recognize, even Mr. Knopf had mentioned, our policy's pretty good, we just need to refine it a little bit more. And we're gonna do, I think there was a mistake on the second paragraph there, but 2 secondary parents and 1 elementary parent. So that's consistent with the first paragraph. And so what we'll do is we'll send that out. Once we receive those requests, then we'll randomly draw those 3 parents to be involved in that.
And did we determine then that a board member, okay, so we'll just have the one, and Ray, are you gonna do that?
Yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, did you want to do, I mean, I know you've also been very interested in it.
Yeah, I want to take a back row on that.
Okay,
And
okay,
just, I want to observe on that
okay,
one.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
It's just a
I don't want to
question I
get too
had because-
emotional about it, so.
And we'll have predetermined dates, so you'll know that way ahead of time, because we want those parents to be able to commit to all those dates.
Very good. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the cell phone policy committee proposal as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that we accept the cell phone committee, proposed committee makeup and timeline.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, there's no human resources updates, but those will be rolled into a future meeting. So the next on the agenda, Jonathan, business operations, and you'll report on Highland High School rebuild update, the PV Tech update, and the proposed 25-26 SIP or Capital Improvement Program plan.
Okay. Thank you, Board. A quick update on Highland rebuild. We are just culminating a lot of work by the architect and by ourselves, by the contractor, Bateman Hall. We have met with building officials to, again, establish that good relationship, lines of communication, as because they will be the next step to review these plans. We have received, at the end of last week, the 90% complete construction documents. And so full 292 pages of that. This week we will receive the 100% set. That will be, well, the end of this week, first of next, that will be delivered to the city for their review, probably right after Christmas, probably on the 27th. And then while they're doing that, Bateman Hall, they're the ones that will help us to put this out to bid. So they've started creating different bid packages. That bid list, when you approve that, probably first part of March, will be very extensive. All the different components and systems of this building. And so Bateman Hall is planning on going out to bid January 8th. And so it'll be 5 weeks, again, all these contractors to go through and glean what they need out of these 292 pages. That's just the construction drawings, and then there'll be another thick book of all of the specs and all of the how the systems must perform and the different qualities there. And then Bateman Hall will need about 2 weeks to verify all these bids. As I've gone through this before, built a gymnasium, for example, the low bid on electrical was almost half of what everyone else was. Well, they didn't understand the scope of what we were trying to build. So they, of course, were disqualified. But it took time for the contractor to make sure that was happening. And they almost need to touch that on everybody just so we're 100%, they know what they bid for, and of course they can't change their bid, but it takes about 2 weeks to verify that. So again, we'll look to approve for sure by the March board meeting, and possibly even before if there's an opportunity maybe for a special meeting or so forth. So, okay. Any questions, any updates on that?
The only question I had, how's the parking lot with snow and are we,
It's
temporary lot across the road, that's gonna be
It's
okay?
going well. Yeah, I think the students are learning how to to park there. And so it is, I'm anxious to see, obviously, we've just had a little bit of skiff of snow.
Right.
We haven't really had any accumulation. And so I'm anxious to see how that will hold up. But we'll talk about that then, our SIP plan, to maybe put some asphalt down, but yet still leave us an option to do something further in the front up there. So.
I've got one more question.
Yeah, please.
On the last update we had, I think it was the last one, there was still a couple of options on looks, the outside awning style, that thing.
Okay, yes.
Has that been decided on? If we're getting to 100%?
Correct, yeah.
Did I miss it?
We, regarding the awning, so it was, if I remember correctly, it was either the full awning or the half awning? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, and then they had just a couple of look styles on it, but.
I think it was the color on the undersurface of that canopy
Correct.
section. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
Mrs. Francis?
it just had a couple of options in the.
Yeah,
last
that
update,
was,
and
that
so-
was one of the plans there, as I'm trying to think as we, that was, anything that, it still can be modified, as we're just getting the bidding documents, but we did settle on, that full canopy, that will
But
provide.
not the letters.
Correct. No, And that's the good thing, is that we'll still, you know, we'll get these bid prices, and then we'll still kind of evaluate things as you know, as we build and so forth.
Okay, awesome.
But we will, and that's what, you know, Brian, Glenn, and myself were, you know, going through all those pages to make sure it does, you know, it is the very best that we'll want there.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Mhm.
PV Tech, and I'll look to Mr. Facer. You've toured it and been to our meetings there, but we're getting very close. Looking at installing some lockers. We've received occupancy in all the classrooms, and two of the bays. Still looking at for the welding shop to be finished.
So will there be more classes starting in January? Expansion, or-
Excellent question.
Sue is shaking her head no.
Yeah, I don't think
From the
any.
back. Don't do it. Nope.
Okay, sorry. What I think is, you know, the construction class, for example, they were all in the classroom setting. I think that's what's going to change it. Am I right, Dr. Hal? There.
So then they'll go into the bay?
Yeah, correct. They'll just expand into that space. So they wanted to get that, you know, the class started, but they've had a kind of a miniature learning for this first try, but now they'll be able to get into and use the full space there. Of course, there'll be more equipment coming and so forth, but it's an
And as
evolving.
you know, and you've heard plenty of times tonight, that staffing is a consideration. And so we have presented that resolution through ISBA to maybe look at an alternative way for staffing of CTE programs, because we know that those programs typically have lower class sizes. One, just because of the work and the experience that they're having, and that's largely part of it. And so we want to continue to look at that option moving forward, but presently we don't have any plans to expand further with staffing and programs, not for the current school year.
I had to leave that meeting a little early. How did our legislators, were they in favor of that resolution, or did they?
Yes, in fact, we, Thursday afternoon, myself, Mrs. Pettit, Courtney, if she's available, we will be meeting with Representative Gardner and also Senator Ruchti. And then we have a call-in with Quinn Perry of Idaho School Boards Association to talk about what that process would look like moving forward. Just a quick note, Clay Long, who was the director of the CTE programs, resigned recently, just in like less than the last month. And so that may cause just a little bit of a stall here as we move forward, because we don't know what the leadership looks like and what the support might be or not be.
So are you trying to get Ruchti and Garner to sponsor?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And then
legislation.
they would
Okay.
carry it through their respective houses.
Right.
Mhm.
That's great.
Mr. Facer, anything you'd like to add, or?
No, this looks good. We're just excited to see that get completed. And
Absolutely.
they said they were gonna have those stalls, those bays done in the welding before the first year, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. It was amazing that I was talking to them, they put all those stalls in one day, and there was like, I don't know how many stalls are there, but
25, 30?
I think there were 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the gentleman, one of the installers, said something about 30, and I just counted the booths, and I'm like, I'm not getting 30.
Yeah.
Sue knows the number?
Well, I was gonna say, and just so you know, our welding teacher's been on a leave of absence for the year. He's coming in on Friday to actually look at
Oh, cool.
his new welding shop and get the process of welders moved from ISU back over to PV Tech.
So when's he coming back?
End of the year.
So he'll be back next fall.
Next year.
That's what he's told us all along, so yes,
Well, he was really good up there. I know the kids loved him, so it's.
absolutely.
Nice to have him back.
that's-
Busy class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the SIP
Yes,
program.
SIP. So this SIP, there's a lot of SIPs, but this is the Capital Improvement Program, Capital Improvement Plan. It's basically how to use our dollars. Again, we start with a committee of elementary, secondary director. You can see that in your, if you can pull up that PowerPoint slide there. Again, maintenance, of course, custodial, maintenance, our supervisors there. And again, so timeline, we just barely finished the summer projects, and we're starting again for the next summer as we evaluate all of our buildings, the various different schedules. That's what this is, almost several front and back pages. The committee has met 3 times to kind of evaluate the big projects, the requests from the schools, interior and exterior and so forth. And so and then we come to you to kind of present the tentative plan and recommendation, and that way we can start the bidding process. I will stress that this is, again, just a plan. And as bids come in, we alter. We can alter that. We alter that in the maintenance shop, and the board can do that as well. And so it's all to get ready to ramp up in that short amount of time that we call summer. And so, anyway, again, another slide as we try to estimate the revenues. And so we thank our taxpayers. That amount is firm there, that we get slightly over $7 million this coming year from our taxpayers. We'll receive some earnings off of that. Right now, we're planning on transferring. This is the lottery money that we don't get anymore, but did receive that in Fund 436, and so we can. And this plan does allow for that $1.1 million transfer there, and we'll receive some state bus depreciation money to help offset the cost. And then, of course, try to get that crystal ball as of 7/1/2025, how much will be left in this account from this current year. And so that's essentially all of our resources there. The second is just in pie graph, pie chart format. Again, 81% comes from property tax, and so we sure do, appreciate our taxpayers there. The next pages are, again, a summary of the expenditures. As you can see at the top, the large amount comes from this replacement schedules, and we'll dive more into those details here in the following slides. We always put the annual, this kind of the smaller stuff, the annual recurring maintenance. I will remind the board, so there's, with PV Tech, 24 school buildings that our learners occupy. And so that's what this plan does. And the focus does change. We just finished this last summer a huge push in our outdoor facilities. We're fairly set there for decades to come there, and so now we'll be able to to focus elsewhere there. Interior needs requests, that came from the committee as well, again from the administrators to our committee. Same thing, interior and exterior needs, different equipment also comes out of this plan as well. We'll cover the additional major projects here coming up. Again, and then two reserve places and even as we've talked about facilities tonight, again, part of this plan is to have the flexibility to put these dollars where the board sees the most important fit. We did commit that part of this money will go to Highland High School, and so you'll see that $3 million. Again, we're really anxious. A part of that March presentation will be, of course, we'll have the cost of Highland High School, and then I plan on, okay, this is how we're going to pay for that. And so.
And these are for the extra, so like those extra classrooms? that
Correct,
we
this is the
added
extra
on?
classrooms, but even, some of the extra,
Everything
if
goes
you go back
over.
to the May, I think last time we talked about it was the May board meeting, kind of the different funds. Obviously, the insurance, of course, will be big into there. This house, the House bill, well, it's Fund 436 now, where we've received some of that money. Some of it came from our capital improvement plan, and even some from selling some properties. So we'll see kind of what we have to do. Since it is a 2.5 year build, we'll have some time. We have the cash flow to definitely to start it and get
So obviously, interest, where does
And-
that interest what's that being earmarked for?
right in definitely Highland. Yep, and that will be part of the equation as well, as I'll try to estimate think the feds hopefully will level off a little bit. It hurts our personal, sometimes it hurts us personally with, with high interest rates, but it will help us, save money on here, so. So the next page is kind of the summary. These are the different replacement schedules, if you will, as we go through asphalt, boilers, carpeting, concrete. Again, you can read through all of those.
Are any of these for Washington? Just out of curiosity?
So, thank you for that straightforward question. No, other than just the general recurring maintenance, there wasn't any plans on Washington. Again,
And did they request any, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Had they made any requests for anything?
They did. They did. Is it in your, did those schedules get
I don't have
published?
that
you
in
know?
here.
It's public, the meeting is public there. I think we just put that on hold.
I think the schedules were published in the committee meeting packet, but not in this board packet.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought I saw Washington.
So we can.
Is there money in there for Tandoy or Lincoln?
So Lincoln was scheduled to get a new roof, yes, and that was like the major projects. Lincoln was scheduled to get a new roof, but there were no projects scheduled for Tandoy. There was a few requests, a washer dryer. I know that they were looking something for that.
So they're on
Drinking
here
fountains.
for physical security. Is that just the camera that you hold your ID
Yes.
up to and
No,
there's like
oh.
5 on there on that same one? but-
Okay, yep, so you jumped a page, but that's
Oh,
great.
sorry.
Nope, that's great. We can go back and forth. Excellent point. Yes, Tandoy is scheduled to get, and that's actually,
Entry doors?
no, entry doors. Yes, Tandoy is scheduled, because that's one that we can easily put an ADA access. Again, that's the ADA, the push button that will open, because they have that vestibule already. And we've done almost all of our secondary schools. We did Wilcox last year and trying to do that. So thank you for jumping that page. And we can go back and forth. This is a new page that I've never, but I wanted to be, again, more details, more transparent. Okay, what are some possible options into these replacement schedules? Ms. Furness, as you mentioned, that physical security, that is a new, and that's actually a more, video cameras. So that's more than the ADA section. That is digital cameras. Most of our camera system is pretty old. We've had that. It's analog. It is a pretty good price tag, and so we'll have to basically spend about $300,000 every year to kind of upgrade.
And these are in the school, correct?
These are
It's
in
not-
the schools,
Not
correct?
like just entry cameras.
Correct. They're in the schools that the administrators, the SRO uses to help.
It's like playgrounds, front door, parking lots.
Correct. Entryways, hallways, yeah, no,
Interior, exterior.
yeah, nothing in the classroom, nothing in the,
Security
Latrine.
surveillance.
yeah, security
Gotcha.
surveillance,
Okay.
yes.
I saw in the committee meeting, the minutes, that there was talk about ADA entrance over at Lincoln. Is that not included in here?
So no, it is not included yet. That's one that, ever since I've been here, we've talked about that. The ADA access right now is in the back of the building. That's where the bus drops off. So if a learner is in a wheelchair that comes off of a special needs bus, they'll go in the back. But no, their front entrance is not ADA accessible. You have to go up to get to the front door and then down to get to the.
Yeah, but they do have ADA now, and you're not including it in this.
That is not. And that's something that we'll need to, we've kind of scheduled that for next year's kind of a major project, but that will kind of determine what we do.
So this budget here is for the remainder of this year going through the summer?
So technically, it's for the 25-26 school year.
Oh, for all of next year?
All of next year, but it kicks off, with the summer of 25. So basically, this budget will kick off basically starting in June and then paid out starting in July.
So then when do you start bidding for all these different things?
As soon as you say go.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
Granting permission
January.
for it. So it's an action item for tonight?
That is an action item, yes, thank
Okay.
you for clarifying that. Yes, it is an action item. in front of you. Again, and that's the other opportunity that if, that we can talk about, even though we have a bid, the board can choose, not to accept the bid. And sometimes we get the bid and it's, no, I just can't, I'll ask the board to say, no, we just can't do that. Or, for example, let's say, since we talked physical security, what if those cameras, jump in price, and so forth? We might only be able to do 3 of the schools, and we'll bring that to you. We did the same thing with roofs. If you look at the roofing, Idaho was actually bid out last year, but the bids came back so expensive, and we determined that Idaho could wait 1 more year, and so that's why it's on this year as well. So anyway, so that's again Wilcox, some new lighting, Ellis and Jefferson, some painting and so forth. Another new thing is playgrounds. The ESSER money has really helped where every elementary school was able to get some playground, but it kind of highlighted that we need to upgrade some of our fall material. The old school was to use the old railroad ties. Well, they discouraged that, and that's not up to code now. But to replace that, it's very expensive, but we felt like we needed to start working on that. The other one is restrooms, initially for Tyhee and Hawthorne. Again, I will mention that there's dollars associated with this, but then there's also vendors. Because we're even looking, okay, does Irving, some locker rooms, and it's right where the public uses well, they need to have an upgrade as well, but can the same vendor or our local vendors, tile, plumbing, can they do all of our projects in one summer? And so that's the other thing we take into consideration there. Okay. So again, just some more details, a little bit, with the replacement schedules there.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Following on?
Yeah.
With my direct questioning.
You bet, appreciate that.
And I apologize that I wasn't able to make several of these meetings.
You're
just
okay.
because scheduling, I'm
good.
grateful. I'm glad that Jim was able to be there.
Yeah.
But my question then is, what items on here, or did we not put Washington things on here? Because the thing I want to make sure is we're very transparent.
Absolutely.
That a decision has not been presumptively made and that Washington is not on here. I want to make,
Sure.
And there weren't decisions made without the board.
Correct.
To not put what Washington might have needed. And so that's why I'm asking, were there things that Washington submitted? And, because I don't see anything on here. And I just want to be
Right.
transparent with that wasn't a
Okay.
presumptive decision.
I saw in the notes the talk about removing the carpet from the walls, and I have been told from you that that's one of the things that Washington has talked about.
Possibly.
And
There were
it-
several that,
Yeah, so in the notes it talks about it being 10,000 a room to remove that
approximately.
with asbestos. Is that,
There's asbestos. I mean, I guess I glanced at those notes.
We just need
but-
to know what's
Yeah.
behind it, and that's the hard thing.
So
There's
if you take that
several-
carpet off, you're saying it could expose asbestos.
That is correct.
Or lead paint, or,
Yeah, or lead paint and so forth. There are several elementary schools that have carpeted walls. And so, but we thought, and they've asked for that before, and we said, no, we just, that was just kind of a lower priority, because you can still
Right.
have great instruction in a carpeted wall. That being said, we said, okay, let's at least find out how much it's gonna cost, to be able to do that and see if we can, update some of these our elementary schools and try to get the carpet off the walls there. So, I can definitely, I know I'm towards the end, but I know exactly where it's at. I could get those A's and B's, and I could answer that for you regarding Washington.
Like, we're going to send out something else. What did we miss?
Oh, Sue's
Yeah, the
second proposal.
secondary boundary option 4, or whatever it was.
I think it was
So we-
option C, and I think that I included it in the addendum in the last meeting. I think.
Oh,
that's
was that what it was? Okay, so we're going to make sure you receive that, and then we can also include this other. And then maybe going along with what Jonathan.
And is that other, or is that the full replacement schedule?
No,
you
so
guys
that
looked
would,
at, or-
that would be the request. So
Oh, the
the document that
request.
I'm
Okay, gotcha.
looking at, if I may, Dr. Howell, is basically, all the requests come in, and they come, it's in the packet that Jim received there. Jim, do you remember? I don't know. For example, that whole process, there are some that we just say no.
Sure,
Right.
no, and last year I participated.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that.
so you're familiar
Oh, yeah,
there.
very familiar. I
And
just,
so-
like I said, I'm just curious what.
But
if
I
there were
love,
more
yeah,
major
we
things
want to
that they asked
be
for, or was
transparent
it
there.
more of these cosmetic kinds of things and,
I remember one was with the stairs, but I know that we had done.
basement stairs? Or front
Um,
stairs?
I believe it was the front entrance stairs, but I know there was some repairs done to that,
Right.
year before that.
Okay.
So,
That's fine.
and
So Tanya has it pulled up. I
Oh.
don't know if you want to spend the time this evening looking at it, if we
I
can
mean, the
get
hard
you
part
that
is that if we're going to
information.
approve this tonight, but
Okay,
it's.
and.
Well,
and
that would
that
be in our
will
minutes, wouldn't it?
Again, I'm going to take you back to Jonathan's first
Thank
statement, is
you.
this is a plan. and
Sure.
It can ebb and flow.
Right.
And, as we work through these discussions with the 10 zones or boundaries and possible closures of schools or what have you, I think it's important to note that we can hold off on a bid. We can bid and say we're going to decline or withdraw it. And so this will happen over the next probably 2, 3, 4
Oh,
months
correct,
even.
correct. Yeah, we can
Depending
definitely.
on the response times and so forth that we receive. And so if there's an adjustment that needs to be made, whether it's a Tendoy, Lincoln, Hawthorne, whatever it happens to be, then we can come back to the board. But this just allows us to get moving on a majority of it, but if there's anything that you don't feel comfortable moving forward with, we will pull it off.
Yeah, so I've got a procedural question then.
Okay?
And so then, is it usual to present this as an action item, or would it, would we be talking about this at a work session prior, than to having it as an action item tonight, when we're kind of like looking at it?
Well, we didn't
Instead
want to
of
put it
the
off
first
too long, because normally we've addressed this probably in, even as early as November. We're actually about a month behind right now, because with materials and getting on contractors' schedules, getting them to bid it, and then that response time that we have to follow up. We really would like to get out of the gate as early as possible, but again, make the adjustments as the board sees fit and determines and gives us direction even into February. So we will not enter into the final contracts without board approval. Those come back to you as well as the authority to bid the projects. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, though. I understand we have a lot of things going on, but I was just wondering, I'm just completing my first year. Is this usually discussed, maybe prior, if we're not so busy with other things, in work sessions, or
It's done in committee.
is it done in committee? Okay.
And that's-
And
And this is the
Jim's been-
result of the committee.
Okay, and it's presented as an action item?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would also mention that too, that we do present the committee proposals, minutes at previous work sessions. So those have been presented at the October board meeting, November work session, and November board meeting as well.
Yeah, I remember seeing some minutes, yeah, okay.
So if you're okay to answer your question, I can do it very quickly. I appreciate AJ, Mr. Watson. He ran and grabbed his notes, the notes that we all take here. So Washington had asked us for an assessment of the front steps, an assessment of the back steps leading to door number 2. So just some of those. And then also the main floor girls, that was exterior. This is the interior main floor girls and boys restroom floors. And so it was determined that Tyhe's floors were a little bit in worse condition there. And then also Wilcox actually had some drain issues that that we had to fix there, but they're on there as well. So it wasn't, and I'll tell you, I mean, and we can go through any of those if you want to know all of the no's. The other one that came to mind is, there was an elementary that wanted all new cabinets, and that'd be great, it's just, that was a little bit outside of where, the scope was they have, or at least for this year, this is what we had thought there.
Right. And like I said, I've been on that committee,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
understand
sure.
how those
So you
priorities, and I
remember.
think all I'm wanting to maybe make sure we make.
1,000%, thank you for that.
Knowledge, so that people know that there wasn't just we're going to set Washington aside. Boy, I keep. Sorry.
You must be half Italian. I'm half Italian. He's half
I just wanted to make sure it was out there that
Correct.
Washington was not put on hold.
Correct. And I'll tell you again with Washington, we walk in there, and even the inspectors, Washington is very well taken care of.
Right.
Even our state representative, he thought it was, floors and paint. I was like, no, that's the things that we do good on. It was, with Washington, it's just some of these major systems, that over the years that, they haven't been upgraded. And so that's, if we do use Washington long-term, that's the investment that we would have to make. And then the wild card is the structural.
Yeah, so you're saying this is an outline, and it can change based upon what further decisions are made.
Absolutely.
I guess that brings me back to the foundational issues, which I just noticed, and so we're not talking about anything major structural collapse or anything like that. We're talking about cracks that need to be repaired.
Correct. I'll give you, again, a straight example. Again, those numbers don't include, ADA entrance. Okay, let's put an elevator there. Okay, that's in my old high school, before I got there, they had to do that. And it was an exterior elevator, so you have to have a vestibule and so forth. Again, what we want to make sure with Washington, if an elevator is added, will the structure hold up during the penetrations, boring into that wall? That's the part that, it's safe there, but there's just maybe some unknowns that we will have to do a better
Because any kind of
structural.
major change, we would then be held to a higher code standard.
That is correct as well.
And, yeah,
That is correct. And so, and so that's just the inheritance that I received, being here 3.5 years of the buildings.
Right.
And Washington is of course one of our 23 buildings that we've taken care of and so forth. But there are, of all the buildings, that's the one that has some largest needs there if we use it long term.
So, Mr. Balls, maybe along the same line of questions. So, as Mr. Knopf pointed out, in structural, and then what I'd call the critical areas marked by red.
Correct.
Roofing and HVAC. So, roofing and HVAC, about another $1.1 million, we'll say.
Possibly.
So, in the maintenance schedules, would these show up within those 5 years, the next 0 to 5? But the requests that you just mentioned, those 5 or 6 items, where do these fall in line with the other items that were requested? Does my question make sense?
I believe so. And it's, again, full transparency. It's of how, regarding Washington. Where, with the board's, vision of how long we would use Washington. Right now it's been, we've maintained, the surface, I'll call it the surface items, but some of these larger ones, prior to me getting here and even my 3 years here have not happened. For example, Jefferson got a new boiler, system last year. And so I'm not saying that, that Washington was neglected, but it might not have, always got its turn in the rotation of the major systems. Is that fair to me to say?
Part of that, too, I can take you back 11 years. So prior to myself becoming the superintendent, there was a land donation by ISU. And I think the longer-term plan was that Washington would be relocated to the property that's just south of Franklin Middle School. So that had been possibly in the works then as we were watching the enrollment, and especially in that neighborhood of Washington. And then in light of bonds passing and so forth, and capital improvements and school plant facilities. And again, it's all just trying to balance what you have with what you need with what you want. And so with that, I think the plan, at least 10 years ago, was we were looking to possibly close, that was Superintendent Wagner, looking at Washington as a structure that would need a lot of support within the next 20 years. And so that was kind of the plan B if you will.
Well, just to follow along with this, looking at the earlier cost analysis over 5 years, 6 to 10, 11 to 20, et cetera. You know, looking over, let's say, the next 11 to 20 years between Tendoy and Washington, there's approximately $2.6 million difference. I mean, does that take into account the structural, the roofing, and the HVAC? Well, I see the HVAC is accounted for. I really don't see figures there. For the next 0 to 5 years, I see some for roofing.
So the structural should be, as, let me, I got my notes here, there.
Structural just in the first 5 years, okay.
Correct, because that's, I mean, that was, like I mentioned, the biggest need there, that, okay, if, let's just say the board said, yep, I want to use Washington for the next 50 years, then that's what would, need, that would be the first thing is, okay, can it structurally be, repaired and to, again, I hesitate because it is safe there, but will it last, another 20 years, another 10 years? That's what we don't know.
Okay, yeah, I see, thank you.
You see there? So again, to answer, back to your question there on the action item, so yes, I appreciate you taking action tonight to at least start that process of putting out the bids. Of course, any of you or through the process of Ms. Johnson can, bring up anything about these facilities, about our SIP plan, and we can make, adjustments up until, we sign those contracts. And so we can pivot there. And again, that's part of if we go back to the expenditures, again, that last one, future projects / contingency reserve. And that's the place that typically that's without any using that would be rolled over, to the following year. But that's something that we could use there, so.
So do you want to go ahead and address the major projects?
Yes, please, thank you. Yep, keep going right along. So again, this has been on the list, probably 2 or 3 years. Kind of took a pause once the fire happened, but basically a new parking lot / front entrance. And so that would be where we're fairly confident that we should put down some asphalt there to the west, to save the base there and so forth. And I will mention here, and because if the board doesn't want us to do this, let us know. But we have started an application with the city. Haven't hit to submit yet, but that's the goal this week, is to ask them to vacate in Bench Road. We've mentioned this before. But that's kind of where we want the parking lot kind of away so that we could, whatever we do there in front, it's 70 feet that we're asking, and then we'd have to grant them an easement down that, but that would potentially change the front there, the drop-offs, the flow, hopefully increasing parking safety and so forth, so.
So I guess I'm curious about is this the best time to do it? I mean, with construction and moving in and out of that area, I mean, is this not something that
So the
might
parking
put
lot,
off?
I would, again, we would discuss this, but my thoughts are not to do that front row, put that in asphalt, because we know we'll need parking, on that new parking lot, just like, that we had. We needed new parking there. And so if we put 3 different stalls in there to put 225 to 250
So this is the
new
one
parking.
across the street, not the one next to the building?
Yes, across the street.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh,
I thought
my
you were
bad, I'm
talking-
sorry. Yes, to the
My
west.
sense of
Our
direction is way
6, well, I might have said the wrong direction. Yes, this is the new land
Okay,
across from Highland.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Yes, just to put that in some asphalt, protect that base, and then, but still leave us access to be able to.
Well, if we don't pave that, there's 2 things. First of all, snow removal in there. When they start pushing snow, they're gonna be pushing gravel with it.
Sure.
Almost guaranteed. The other thing is, you're gonna do the best you can to keep kids from digging in that with their cars, and they're gonna do that.
Correct, and I don't know if you've been up there. It was within the first month, we had a little
Yeah,
I
'cause
even
they're
said the
going
word
up and over
dip-de-doo,
the
right?
sidewalk, yeah.
Well, there was a big, because they were peeling out, because they tried to hurt, I don't think they were being mischievous, but trying to hurry to get into to the line, you know, for the cars coming out of the larger parking lot there to the
Big
south.
hole.
And so we had to pave that front entrance, keep going forward. Again, it really wasn't a real, major project, but we really didn't know where to put it there. But the training center, since, again, we used to have our training center up at Highland at the Gateway Center, but we gave that to Highland after the fire, and they're using that great for the weight room, temporary weight room, and some classrooms up above, and obviously the cafeteria there. And so the training center is now over at Hawthorne Middle School, kind of the annex, there's some modulars there, but that is in needing of a siding replacement, so that's that amount there. This last one has been on the list for a while. Franklin Middle School at Irving and Alameda, we've taken out their 5-lane tracks, 6-lane tracks, and put back a 3-lane track, more of kind of walking. We have rubberized and trapped it there, striped it there, forgive me, and then the interior is now wide enough to play a high school soccer game. We went and walked that, I walked that track, and it's there on the freeway side. There's definitely a hump there, I fear, even though there hasn't been any track meets there, but there is practice there, and the kids, athletes know where to avoid those spots, but I just fear if you've got somebody that might hurt a knee or so forth like that. So we had great discussions, pros and cons, in the committee there, and so, but it did come as a recommendation as a major project to remove that track and install a new, just a 3-lane track like Alameda and Irving. So.
Okay.
And then, the final slide, again, as you saw at the beginning, thank you to the patrons of our school district for their support of our school plant facilities levy, because we would not be able to maintain our buildings without that money.
Very good, thank you. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 25-26 Capital Improvement Program SIP plan as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the 2025-2026 capital improvement plan.
Is there
I'll
a second?
second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed. Next, we have policy 2305. Is that still you, or is there someone
That's
else?
actually me.
Okay. Okay.
Because even though it's AJ's PTAs and PTOs, but it had to do with kind of our separation, specifically in the legal and financial terms from the district. And so this is the second reading up for action. That again, the district, the key sentence in my mind that's added is the district is not responsible, legal or otherwise, for any action or inaction of any PTO, PTA group. And then the PTO is solely responsible for its own financial activities. So the district bears no responsibility nor liability for the action of that parent organization. Again, just wanted a little bit more clarification in that regard.
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to hear policy 2305 on second reading for adoption as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear policy 2305, PTA, PTO, and other parent-teacher organizations on second reading for adoption as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion has passed. Okay, thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is superintendent's report presented by Douglas Howell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 3 or 4 items for you tonight. And first up is the board calendar, and it makes it pretty quick when we take a holiday break right in the middle of this time frame of the month. And so you can see we have District Curriculum Committee, which is Thursday, Mrs. Judy, Mr. Knopf. And then Monday, the break begins. We'll return and resume operations here on the 6th at the district office. And then you can see on the 7th, we'll have that special meeting that we have referenced a couple times today in regard to updated proposals and district enrollment. That's scheduled 3:30 to 5:30. Local issue committee that Friday, the 10th, and if you're interested, RSVP Ms. Johnson. Normally, we have those agendas from the chamber a week or two ahead of time, so if there's something that captures your attention, let her know, so that we would only have 2 board members there, or, yeah. The 13th is the proposed hearing for elementary, and you're going to let Ms. Johnson know your availability for that, and the possible start time looks like a little bit later in the evening. Then on the 14th, community prevention meeting, again, that's part of Judge Call's meeting, and Ms. Wilkes from the district, if you're interested, let Ms. Johnson know. And then we have board work session scheduled for that evening, and that is sandwiched between another proposed hearing for secondary enrollment on the 16th. We might have a little bit of a conflict there, as we have a placeholder also for student discipline hearings. So we may start those earlier or reschedule them to a different date. You're already tied up Monday, possibly Tuesday, now Wednesday. That might be a Thursday, or
Whoever said board meet, or being on the school board was
you're earning
easy.
all the money that you're getting paid, and yeah, we're gonna double it, as a matter of fact. Yeah, so, and then the 20th, MLK Day and Human Rights. And then on the 21st, we'll be back to a regular board meeting. On the 29th, key communicators, that will be here at the district office. And again, another placeholder on a Wednesday evening for student discipline. So that is your calendar. The next item I have for you is.
Can I just ask one quick
Yes,
question?
you bet.
When is Day on the Hill? That's in February.
It's always on President's Day.
President's Day, okay.
Yeah.
Can we get that sent out, just so I get it on the
Yeah,
calendar?
also I believe that it's posted on ISBA's website too. If you go to
Okay.
their events, they have those
Get
dates.
it on my
But
calendar
if
soon.
it's not on the board calendar, it should be.
Oh, I didn't look out that.
Well,
But I
he
mean,
hasn't
it's
gone
not
out
in
that
this
far,
packet,
but-
because, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
put it
I
out
think
to.
it probably
end of
just went to
February.
the end of January.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
thank
get
you.
that sent out.
Sorry.
Meetings of the board, first reading tonight, and you'll see that just, this policy has to do with a change in items, moving them around a little bit. And because of the legislation, whereas public comment comes ahead of most, well, all action items. So we did want to move awards and recognitions and reports to the front as we did tonight, but this is your policy. So we need some action on that to make it official. And then third item for me is the revised procedure. We've talked about this, and also item D, which is board strategic goals, a few times. And so, as you'll see in that revised procedure, that is in regard to the board contacting legal counsel through Idaho School Boards Association, so that they can track the hours that we have available to us by way of our membership. And so we have massaged that language a few times based upon previous discussion. And so, there was an action item. I jumped, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Ms.
okay.
Johnson,
That
I was
first
surprised
one
you
was-
didn't give me a little
Yeah, sorry.
yell or something.
I just figured if you wanted to get through them, we could just go through and do action
On-
at the end where we've
For all
kind of
three of
covered most of it.
Okay, Madam Chair, if you're all right with that.
That's totally fine.
Okay, so that item 32, we've cleaned up that language a couple times, or again, massaged it based upon the discussions that the board has had on a few previous occasions. Item 27 on that list, non-voting participant, I think that was Mr. Knopf that caught that. And then 28, Ms. Johnson just included public into the board meeting. And so those are the 3 items for you on that document. And then finally is the board strategic goals. And you can see Madam Chair, Judy presented some goals for you to consider last week. And then we also had some that we had kind of gleaned some notes from our other meetings. and prepared some for you, and so those are both for your consideration. Maybe you have some others tonight that you would like to discuss in that, under that item. So those are the three action items that I have for you tonight. And if there are any more questions, I'll be happy to answer them, or as you go through your voting and discussions, I can answer them as well at that time.
Okay.
Can we discuss
So-
before the vote, or we have to wait until
You-
the vote and then discuss?
Discussion part of the vote.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is entertaining a motion for policy 2201, meetings of the board on first reading as presented. Is there a motion?
I move that the board approve hearing on policy 2201 as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion has passed. The next one up is, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve revised procedure 2201P as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve revised procedure 2201P, meetings of the board operating protocols as presented.
Is there a motion? Or no, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that one?
I have discussion on that one. Just the longer that I've thought about this on 32, where each board member has a limited of 48 minutes of free legal support per year, it just doesn't sit right with me. Like, I understand like wanting to make sure everyone has their fair share, but I feel like if we just have it tracked through Renee and we're just updated, and then maybe if we need to rein anyone in or just say, hey, you're using too much time. But if there is a bigger issue that comes up and 2 of us or 3 of us end up needing more than 48 minutes, like, how does that work? Are we going to like, Jim, can I have some of your minutes? Like, that was my concern with it. Like,
I think the reason I put it out there is that there's no way any of us would know who's using it, right? And so this way, you have those 48 minutes. And sure, you could ask them if you need more minutes, but I think, at least that was my understanding, that there would be you would never know if I went and talked to ISBA Legal. And so, rather than use up all of our free time with no one else, and then let's say you came forward with an item and then lo and behold, there's no minutes left. That's kind of what the intent was, is that you didn't have to come and ask anyone, but yet you knew you had that much time. If you need more time, you can ask for it, but at least that was my intent. Renee?
I understand that too. And I do also want to let the board members know and reassure you that if you do have serious legal matters, that we do always refer those to, like if we're out of our free hours, send the request to the superintendent, say you have a major issue you need some legal advice on, and we'll get that for you. And that's kind of how we've always handled it and dealt with it in the past. So
And
that's
I
still
appreciate
available.
that, and I would have expected that,
Yeah.
but I think this was just a way to
Right.
create some barriers so that not any one of us could just eat it all up on one particular issue unless it was, something that needed to.
yeah. So on that, Renee, you are reporting back to us like quarterly or something like, hey, we've used up this many minutes. Are we good? Like, is that?
I think that is kind of what we landed on, was that if they had started to be used, and I get that information from Quinn, that it would just be kind of added to the next report, that it's like, this many minutes were used, this is how much is remaining. If they haven't been used and I don't get any updates, we probably won't put it on the, next.
And I guess you don't
Information
necessarily have
packet.
to identify who's used them.
No.
Yeah. That was my only concern, is that, if you needed to, and then lo and behold, you find out there's nothing left, and then it does incur a cost to the district, how do we kind of make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I would just hope that we would, be conscientious of that at the beginning. And then with Renee updating us, then we already know beforehand. But-
Well, and there shouldn't be any issue if somebody needed more minutes and they went, somebody that's not used any, then I don't think that'd be a real problem.
Yeah, I don't see that as either.
So with this in here though, with it saying you're limited to 48, like, does that
Before
kind of
you have
block
to-
you out though?
No, you would, if somebody used up all of their free legal hours through ISBA, and you still had a concern, then it just kind of goes back to that normal process of go to the superintendent, see if it's something that we can answer, or if we do need some legal advice, then that's what we do.
Okay.
So then, Megan, am I understanding you correctly, then perhaps you would prefer to take out that one sentence? Each board member will be limited to 48 minutes of free legal support per year?
Yeah, I would be more comfortable with taking that out.
I think maybe Deanna might be also, based on what she said before, and
We can't speak for her.
no, I cannot speak for her. I would say that I think I would agree with you that, I don't know if it's really necessary to put in 48 minutes.
Do we need to postpone this till next meeting?
Maybe it'd be best to do that.
I don't know if it's that big of an issue to postpone it.
I don't either. I
Again,
think that if you want to vote on it with or without, either way, the amendment would be fine.
How else would you amend it then so that not any one person can completely use up the time without anyone's knowledge? That's my concern, because that very well could happen.
Yeah, I understand that. Maybe just putting that each board member will be conscious that they are dividing their time between other people, like.
Well, I don't see where, this really isn't a critical issue that we need to really vote on it tonight. We can put it off.
Could you put a motion in there? Could you word it so that it says something like, if they run out of minutes, they can borrow from somebody else or something? I don't know. Would that need to be put in there, or does it need to be put in there? Can we just leave it like it is and then we just work it out between us? If we really need more minutes?
We can go ahead and vote to take that out. You want to put amendment forward. I just feel strongly that there needs to be fairness and not,
Could just have it say, be conscientious.
what
Using
else
up all the
more do you
minutes?
want me to say?
Yeah.
Some of us are more
I
for
think you
both,
want a checks and balances.
I don't want to lose, I think we need to make sure that it's equitably used if necessary. I've never needed it in 3 years, but you never know. But there needs to be, and this is speaking for our board and future boards, this is just protecting that time, so that it's not, and so if there's another way to word it, if you're more comfortable with not putting a specific minutes, but I do think there needs to be verbiage in there that it is designed for equal access to all the board members. And I don't think that there would be any way to ensure that without that wording in there.
Yeah.
So if you have another way of wording it that doesn't seem so specific, I'm fine with that. But I think we need to keep it in. But I also don't think this is something we need to postpone. So if we need to make a vote and I'm outvoted, so be it. That's how this process works.
No, I don't have a problem leaving it in there. I just, as long as we're aware that, we can, it's not like a hard rule that once we hit that 48 minutes, we're done, we can't.
And I don't think that's the way it was designed. It's meant so that you go in, you have 45, 48 minutes, however you want to put it, and then.
I guess if it becomes an issue down the road, we can change it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it
it-
can be changed later. but-
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
No.
Do you want to make an amendment?
No.
No.
Okay.
No, I feel like everyone voiced valid concerns with it, and if it is flexible, then let's just continue to let it be flexible then.
Yeah, I'm not expecting, that's, the intent is that you have a number, and then you can ask for more.
Yeah,
But
because
just
that
so
was
that
my
it's not
concern. It's like
completely
you're
wiped
cut off
out
48,
on any
so.
one person's issues, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we'll go back, we've had our discussion. All those in favor?
Renee, do you have the motion?
Oh.
And the second? Are you caught up?
Yes, I have a motion from Mr. Knopf and a second from Mr. Facer, and there was no amendment, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Was that all ayes?
I voted aye.
I voted aye.
I vote aye.
Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay. Noted. With that, the motion has passed. Next, I would entertain a motion with regards to the board's strategic goals. Is there a motion?
Well, I'd like to have some discussion on this as well. Do we want to make a motion first and then a discussion?
I think we have to have a motion and then a discussion.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Go ahead.
I hereby move that the board hold off on adopting the board strategic goals for a couple months.
I second that motion.
And any discussion?
Can we readdress this in like March, April? A little slower time?
Did you have a suggestion as to when that would be a good time? I think maybe the spring or summer to address for the fall.
When we have our board retreat and we review operating principles, code of ethics, so forth, I think that's a golden opportunity for us to talk about goals. If you want to start as early as March, and maybe we should, because this process has taken us a little bit longer with a lot of individual input and then collectively you all being in agreement. So we could start it as early, but I would recommend that we adopt the goals for 25-26 rather than say, well, now he's
Well, that's kind of where I
finish
was
out the
going,
school year.
is
Yeah, that
we've
doesn't
had-
really match up so well.
We've had these goals since October? Or no, wasn't it before that? And I know we've had some, I mean, Deanna, or Madam Chair, presented some alternatives, and I know it's been on the agenda and work sessions that she's brought those forward, and no discussion has ever really happened on those. I mean, I wouldn't say none, but I don't think there's been any huge objections to them, but I don't think there's been a unanimous approval of them either. And so I think here we are already, we are halfway through the year. I think these goals that have been presented, and we tweaked them, I know Courtney put in some time in tweaking them after our first discussion. I think we're now at a point, we're halfway through the year, we should adopt the goals that we have now, and then, as Doug said, start on the process a little earlier so that we can then incorporate any of those changes and truly have those discussions moving forward. I mean, I don't think that there's anything fundamentally that will change in our day-to-day, because I think so many of these goals, I mean, the goals that are there are ones that we're working on. Some of her suggestions seemed more, not even necessarily procedural, but I think they're already included in some of the goals, maybe just worded a little bit differently. And so in my mind, it feels like we just need to move forward and accept these goals as they are and then work on new ones sooner so that we can incorporate them sooner and have the discussion on them.
Well, I like the specificity of our goals, but I would agree with you that we can go ahead and, adopt the goals we have now, but with the
I think we should
agreement
bring
that
them
we're,
forward,
with the
yeah,
agreement that
sure.
we're going to have a more thorough discussion about it. I do like the specificity of it. They've been mentioned several times. They've been postponed because we are always running out of time. But let's make sure that we have time to discuss them more in detail in the future. But, like I say, we can go ahead and go with the goals we have now with the understanding that we're going to have a good discussion about these goals later on, earlier, start the process earlier and get them in plan. And
Next year.
yes.
Jim?
I'm fine with accepting it, yeah.
So I like the idea of accepting the proposed ones. My thought on talking about this again, like March, April, is that once we come up with goals, it can have a trickle-down effect if we're doing it in the spring instead of doing it in the fall when everyone has gone back to school and made all their schedules and all their plans for their classes for that next year. I feel like our goals would fall on deaf ears. I mean, even now in December.
Right.
It seems really pointless to me. So that was my point of saying, let's do this in the spring, so then administrators, teachers, that trickle down can happen over summer, fall heading back, and there's actually implementation of the goals instead of us just saying, here's our paper that we signed off on.
I would agree with that, except for if you are planning to adopt what currently exists, those are not in the packet. The proposed, unless I include the current. We have existing goals that have been adopted last year, and those would be affirmed if you want to move that direction and just continue affirming those until we create new goals. But the proposed goals and suggested goals that are included in the packet are not what we have in place at the moment.
Right. So I think what's being proposed is that we use the ones here, the first set, which says stored, has the logo on it, and then we table Deanna's suggestions until a future time when we have the time to
I would
delve
table
into them.
both of these, where they're both new sets of goals.
Okay.
Well, I would agree with what Megan said. It's good to get it done in the spring, establish the goals, then we can prepare the district to know what the goals are. So, yeah, I don't see any reason to change them now in December, that we can go ahead and take the proposed goals, but I agree, we should start the process earlier, start it in the spring, then we can, reach the specific goals we want, and then we can promote them for the coming school year. So I think Megan summarized my position very well. So, yeah, I don't see any reason why, I don't see where it's going to have any effect if we change them now. Why don't we just go ahead and adopt the goals we have and then start early?
I would need to change my,
Well, no.
Right, it would need to amend the motion to table the discussion on new proposed goals until the spring and affirm existing goals.
Good.
okay, I move to amend, or I want to amend my motion to instead adopt the proposed board strategic goals and hold off on the suggested goals until the spring. Did I do that the right way?
I'll second that motion.
Can I ask a clarification, Madam Chair? I don't know.
I don't think you did what you think you did.
That's what I would like
Oh.
to ask.
Did I not?
So, yeah, there was
I
an
need a cheat
affirmation of the existing goals
Right.
to hold
That is
off on
not
both
here,
sets of
Not
these.
these.
Yes.
That's, is that what your intent was?
Or do
No,
you
my
want
intent is
these?
to say this one that's right here,
Oh,
to just,
okay, no, that's, I
Oh.
thought you understood, but,
okay.
so right now, the existing, I would suggest, because both of these are new sets of goals, that we don't,
Looked at these.
right, but we were still, you would still be implementing those mid-year where,
Okay.
right now,
Really any different
you know,
than what we
exactly.
had. They're just worded better. than
So I
what
need
we
to
had.
amend my
So the
amendment.
original motion, or the original goals that we had, we reviewed at the board retreat, where they were the existing goals. There were 5 board strategic
Right,
goals.
and we clarified the wording. I don't
Right.
think we changed any of the
We
goals.
did add 2 more,
Yeah.
and we did change some of the wording substantially.
So I still maintain
so-
we keep the original proposal, that we accept these.
Yeah, that's a whole different motion, though, so that would be,
Cancel my.
I like her motion then. Let's keep her motion.
if that's
And
what
it's-
you intended, then I will keep the motion as was without the amendment, if that was your intent, was to adopt the proposed goals and then bring back discussion again in March.
I'm still happy with that as long as we have discussion in March. So again,
There we go.
that broad trickle down to fall
So-
back to school.
So is there a second to her motion?
Right. Did you maintain your second, if that is the
Yeah,
proposed motion?
yes, as long as you're satisfied with the motion, I agree with exactly what you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you aye, Jim?
I did.
Okay, the motion has passed. This concludes this meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I hear-
Go ahead.
I hereby move that the board adjourn.
All in favor?
Okay.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This